It's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julie, and welcome to Bodyful Day 228. We are talking about bloating and the senses, and today we're talking about the sense of taste. And we're going to talk about, this is day 5 on our series on bloating and the senses, and we're going to talk about how the sense of taste, because it is that direct connection between the brain and the gut, or the gut-brain axis, that we can get an immediate response from our taste receptors. All right, so let's start off, ignore the weird shadow. Let's start off with our breathing. Take a deep breath in and release. On this next deep breath in, I want you to expand in your belly, expand in your chest, expand into your sinuses. And when you do all the things, those things, and you are totally expanded, what happens is that your tailbone rocks back just a little bit. So let's go ahead and try for that. Take a deep breath in. And release. And now, because we have been doing this all week, we're going to breathe into bloating, memories of bloating. I want you to breathe into whatever food it is that causes cramping in your gut. If you have that, I want you to think about what food that is and what it tastes like. Go ahead and take a deep breath in. And release. For me, it's a very large milkshake. I can only have very little bits of milkshake, or else I end up with cramping in my gut, and it is not fun. It used to be that a small milkshake would cause cramping in my gut, and now it is a little bit larger, so I know that I am making some foothold in my digestive system. All right, so today we're talking about how bloating and the senses, how bloating is connected to the sense of taste. And there is the obvious feature. There are some foods that we eat, like dairy, that can trigger bloating because they just are not digested well in the gut. But there are other foods that aren't as obvious that can trigger bloating in the gut. And some of those are the common ones. So we talk about eggs, we talk about gluten, we can talk about soy, we can talk about corn. There are odd ones that come up, so I frequently will bring up flax. Flaxseed has a tendency to trigger bloating in a lot of people. And then another very unusual one, which we've talked about here, are reds. Now, what do I mean by reds? Well, not my sweater, but red pigmented fruits and vegetables. There's something about the red component, which is called an anthocyanidin, which for some people actually triggers bloating, whether or not it's because of something in your microbiome, or it's kind of like a subconscious learned taste aversion. It can pop up. So eating things like tomatoes can actually trigger, or salsa can trigger bloating. In fact, I have a lot of patients that say, well, I didn't eat anything that was bad. Like, did you have salsa? Did you put ketchup on your food? Did you have hot sauce? You know, any of these things that are just perceived as condiments, as things you put on the side, can sometimes, especially if you are sensitive for whatever reason, if you actually are truly sensitive, or you've just acquired a combination of that food plus a bacteria, and that bacteria loves those red foods, that can cause bloating in the gut. Now, remember, we're working off of the healing equation. Energy for a not bloated gut, or for a soothed gut, or energy for good digestion, equals good energy and minus stressors. And while we talk about the sense of taste, it really does end up being a lot about stressors, because there are a lot of tastes that can there are a lot of things with the sense of taste that can trigger bloating. Now, here's an interesting component that we can talk about taste and bloating, and sometimes people will say, but I don't know what it is that I eat. So, obviously you could keep track back of it, but sometimes it really is as dorky as if you eat lunch, you will have bloating. If you don't eat lunch, you won't have bloating. Some people might have bloating the very first thing that they eat during the day. Doesn't matter if it's eaten at 8 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. As soon as they put something in their mouth, they have bloating. And that suggests more so that it is a microbiome issue rather than a taste sensitivity or an acquired sensitivity such that as soon as that taste hits your mouth, it's a specific flavor. No, it's the fact that you've already started the digestive juices. So actually having put something in your mouth signals to your gut, signals from your brain to your gut, hey, something's coming down, and somebody in your gut bacteria goes, woohoo, we're being fed. And all of a sudden you have bloating. So there are some strange situations where it's not just a food, it's the time of day. I, for a long time, had gut gurgles and bloating after lunch. It didn't matter what I ate at lunch. It was lunch. I could be fine in the morning. Lunch triggered everything. So other things, so these are all things that categorize in the stressor component. What can we put in that will release bloating, that will help the good energy in for bloating from the taste perspective? Well, we've already talked about some of them. We've talked about the healing drying spices. Those are good if what is driving a lot of your inflammation is fungal response, fungal issues, candida. If what is driving your bloating is more digestive juices or issues with digestion, you can put digestive juice or digestive enzymes in your mouth, or you could even go as far as going to do bitters. So Swedish bitters, which are digestives, they are something that you take so that you can improve the digestion in your gut. You could do something like Swedish bitters. Swedish bitters would help break down your food and would therefore help your digestion. You could do things like pineapple. Pineapple has bromelain, or papaya, which has papain in it. And those are digestive enzymes that can help break down the food, because one of the reasons why bloating occurs is that the food isn't moving through the tube. And when it doesn't move through the tube, it rots. And when it rots, you get gas. So what happens when, that's why yeast makes bread. It makes bubbles. And that's what happens in your gut if things are not flowing or if they are trapped and stuck. So we look at things that can get rid of said blockages, which we'll talk about in a couple of days, or we can talk about what can we put in that can help the digestive process so there isn't so much gas. Digestive enzymes, foods high in digestive enzymes, drying foods, because if we think about it from a candida perspective, and then we can also just think about it in terms of what foods can we put in that will actually help things slide through. And that's where you're going to be looking at your things like your fibers. I had this problem the other day because I can't. Metamucil. Metamucil is psyllium husk. Psyllium husk is a fiber that will help push things through. And if you can push things through on a regular basis, you do not have bloating. So that is a taste that you can put in. Now, I wouldn't say that psyllium husk is a wonderful taste, but you can also look for high fiber foods, celery, carrots that are eaten raw that you can just kind of pop in and chomp on. A lot of other raw fibrous foods can be added to help move things along. So that is where we can put good energy in for taste. I would be more likely to add the enzymatic things or the Swedish bitters, or the liqueurs that are designed to be digestives, which are more on the bitter side of things, because those are going to help with the digestion already there, rather than the fibers, because fibers have a tendency to be either digested by you or digested by something else. And since they're fibers, they're usually insoluble fibers, which means they're feeding the bad guys, which then can create bloat. So, flavors that help digestion are bitter. So look for bitter flavors or acidic flavors. Those will help digest and move things. along. All right, I hope this has been helpful. Tomorrow we've got 2 left. We have kinesthetic and we have vestibular, and we'll figure out how we're going to incorporate those into bloating. And I will see you tomorrow. Let's finish it off. Take a deep breath in and release. Have a great day.